Have you ever been mid-conversation with a woman, and suddenly, the spark just dies? It's like she mentally checked out, and you're left wondering, was it something I said? Here's the raw truth. Most men don't lose a woman's attention because of looks, status, or money. They lose it because of one simple reason. They don't know how to make her feel. See, attraction isn't logical, it's emotional. And if you're overthinking every word or hesitating to lead the conversation, she senses that instantly. Women are emotional radars. They can feel when you're unsure, and once they sense weakness, the connection slips. But here's the shift most men never learn. It's not about trying to impress her. It's about making her feel something. If you can spark curiosity, intrigue, and guide the moment with calm, grounded energy, she won't just enjoy talking to you. She'll replay the conversation in her head long after it's over. Today, I'm giving you something rare. 6 powerful questions, not pickup lines, not gimmicks, but real, emotionally charged questions that can flip the dynamic instantly. Questions that put you in control and make her feel deeply understood and deeply attracted. And here's the twist. These questions work only when delivered through the lens of Stoic confidence, calm, centered, unshaken by external reactions. Because a man who's grounded doesn't chase, doesn't seek approval, he leads. He doesn't need validation. He creates an energy that makes others want to be around him. So stick with me to the very end, because once you understand and use these questions with the right frame, you'll never struggle to spark attraction again. And listen, the last 2 questions, they're the ones that hit the deepest, the kind of questions that most men never think to ask. But once you do, you'll separate yourself from 99% of guys instantly. Let's get into it. Question 1. What kind of man leaves a lasting impression on you? Most men try way too hard. They start listing their accomplishments like a resume, or they ramble on, hoping a story makes them seem interesting. But here's the truth. The smartest, most composed men don't waste energy guessing what a woman finds attractive. They flip the script and ask one question that hits deeper than most realize. What kind of man leaves a lasting impression on you? It's subtle, but once she hears it and starts answering, something shifts. She's no longer just chatting, she's visualizing. And if you're grounded in your frame, she's visualizing you. This question isn't about fishing for compliments. It's about drawing out her deeper desires, the ones most guys never even think to ask about. Because here's what most men get wrong. They focus on trying to prove they're the man she wants, instead of asking the kind of question that shows emotional intelligence and self-awareness. Now listen, timing matters. You don't drop this 5 minutes into a conversation, or it'll feel like an interview. You build a vibe first. Let her relax. Let the mystery build. Then when the moment feels right, you lean in just a bit, meet her eyes, and ask. And when she tells you what she values, confidence, humor, ambition, you don't jump to perform. You let those traits come through naturally in how you carry yourself, how you speak, how you lead. A man rooted in Stoic confidence doesn't bend to impress. He observes, evaluates, and decides for himself whether she fits into his vision. He doesn't chase the ideal. He becomes the standard. And that is what makes him unforgettable. Question 2. What's your favorite part of those deep, intimate moments with someone you truly trust? Most men float through conversations on autopilot. How's work? What did you do this weekend? What's your favorite movie? Harmless questions, but they barely scratch the surface. And if you stay on the surface, you'll never spark anything real. Here's the reality. Women don't remember what you said. They remember how they felt when they were around you. And if you can stir something deeper, nostalgia, trust, excitement, even mystery, you stop being just another guy. You become someone she feels. That's why one of the most powerful ways to build a real connection is to shift the entire conversation. From logic to emotion. You do it with a question like this. What's your favorite part of those deep, intimate moments with someone you truly trust? That question disrupts her rhythm. It's not something she hears every day, or maybe ever. So she pauses, thinks, and suddenly, she's not just talking. She's reliving a memory. Maybe it's a moment of vulnerability. Maybe it's playful intimacy. Or maybe it's a night where she felt completely protected, emotionally, physically, mentally. The point is, she's feeling all of that right now, while she's with you. And without saying a word about you, you've already connected yourself to that emotional state in her mind. That's the kind of experience most men will never create, because they're too busy performing instead of feeling. Now here's the key. You don't force this. You don't blurt it out 5 minutes into small talk. You read the room. You wait for a moment of comfort, of flow, of warmth, and then you lean in, not with pressure, with curiosity. And then you let the silence do the heavy lifting. Because the silence after a deep question creates anticipation. It tells her, this man isn't rushing. He's not trying to impress. He's grounded. He holds space without trying to fill it. And when she answers, you don't react. You don't judge. You receive it. You listen with presence. Because when a woman feels emotionally safe in your presence, you unlock a part of her most men never get close to. That's not game. That's emotional leadership. And it's the heart of true masculine presence. Question 3. When it comes to a real relationship, what truly matters most to you? A man who values himself doesn't dive headfirst into just any relationship. He watches, he listens, and most importantly, he asks the kind of questions that reveal what most men miss. Because chemistry? That's easy. Shared interests? That's surface level. But true compatibility? That's about values. And one of the simplest yet most powerful questions you can ask is this. When it comes to a real relationship, what truly matters most to you? This isn't a pickup line. It's not small talk. It's a window into how she sees love, connection, partnership. But here's the catch. You don't ask this too early, when the conversation is still shallow. Because if you do, you'll get auto responses like trust, loyalty, or respect. Important? Sure, but vague. You ask this when the energy is warm, when she feels safe, when her guard is down and the words come from feeling, not from script. That's when you'll hear the truth. Maybe she craves emotional connection above all. Maybe she needs ambition and growth. Or maybe she's driven by spontaneity, adventure, and raw intensity. Whatever her answer is, it's gold. Because it tells you exactly what kind of relationship she's built for. Now here's where most men fail. They ignore what they hear. They hear emotional safety when they're emotionally unavailable. They hear security when they're chasing freedom. They convince themselves that passion will override misalignment. But it never does. It only delays the fallout. A Stoic man doesn't mold himself to fit a relationship. He evaluates whether the relationship fits him. When she answers this question, he doesn't flinch. He doesn't try to impress. He listens and reflects. Because if her values align with his, things evolve naturally. If they don't, he walks. No bitterness, no chasing, no trying to fix what was never meant to work. He understands something most men don't. Attraction might start a relationship, but only aligned values can keep it from falling apart. If this is hitting different so far, tap that like button. It helps the channel reach more men who actually get it. And if you're serious about mastering emotional connection through Stoic presence, subscribe, because what's coming next goes even deeper. Question 4. What's something a man can do that instantly gets your attention or drives you crazy in the best way? Attraction has very little to do with how a man looks, and everything to do with what he exudes. Every woman has a trigger, something subtle or not so subtle that hits her emotionally and physically. A presence, a tone, a look, a vibe. And when a man carries it effortlessly, she notices, she feels it. That's why one of the most revealing questions you can ask is this: what's something a man can do that instantly gets your attention or drives you crazy in the best way? This isn't just a flirt. It's a test, not for her, for you. Because the way she responds tells you everything about what excites her and what kind of masculinity she responds to. Some will say confidence, not arrogance, but quiet, grounded self-belief. Others will mention mystery, a man she can't fully read, or dominance, not control, but leadership. Maybe it's wit, boldness, or the ability to stay calm when others fold. But here's the thing. You don't ask this question early. You wait. You build the tension. Let her lean in. Let her trust your vibe. Then, when she's already engaged, you drop it casually, like it's no big deal. And when she answers, you don't perform. You don't pivot to become that guy. You listen, not for validation, but for clarity. A weak man will shapeshift to fit her answer, but a stoic man hears it and holds steady. If her desires align with who he already is, the connection flows. If not, he doesn't force it. He doesn't chase. He walks. Because real attraction isn't about becoming what a woman wants. It's about being who you are and watching who's drawn to it. That's presence. That's power. That's what makes a man unforgettable. Question 5. What's one thing guys do that instantly kills the vibe for you? A confident man doesn't flinch at criticism. He welcomes it. Not because he needs approval, but because feedback reveals the rules of the game most men are blind to. That's why one of the most eye-opening and power-shifting questions you can ask her is, what's one thing guys do that instantly kills the vibe for you? At first glance, it sounds light, playful, but what it really does is give her space to unload, to vent about the behavior she finds unattractive, annoying, or straight up repelling. And here's the trick. Most guys mess this up. They either get defensive, like it's a personal attack, or they overcorrect and start apologizing on behalf of all men. Both are weak, but a stoic man, he stays grounded, he listens, and when he responds, he keeps it calm and playfully detached. If she says, "I hate guys who act cocky," you smirk and say, "Damn, so my modeling portfolio is off the table then?" If she says, "I can't stand dudes who blow up my phone all day," you lean back, relaxed. All right, I'll delete that 5-paragraph emotional monologue I just wrote. You see what's happening? You're not just reacting. You're steering the energy of the conversation. You're showing her you can take honesty without flinching, and even make her laugh while doing it. That's rare. That's attractive. Because women don't just want a man who agrees with them. They want a man who can hold his ground, tease them a little, and still make them feel safe being real. A stoic man knows that criticism isn't a threat. It's data. And emotional reactions? That's weakness disguised as ego. When you stay unfazed, When you meet her honesty with calm confidence and humor, you become the guy she remembers. Not the one who tried too hard, not the one who folded under pressure, but the one who held his frame and made her feel seen, even while laughing about the things that drive her crazy. That's the kind of man who earns not just attention, but respect. Question 6. What's something you wish more men understood, but never ask about? Every woman deep down carries thoughts and feelings she rarely shares. Not because she's hiding, but because most men never create the space or have the awareness to ask. That's why the final question in this conversation isn't about you. It's about her. What's something you wish more men understood, but never ask about? This question doesn't just catch her off guard. It makes her pause, because almost no man thinks to ask it. And when you do, you're not just another conversation. You become the exception. Maybe she opens up about emotional safety. Maybe it's her fear of being judged, or how hard it is to balance independence with wanting to feel desired. Whatever she says, it's not about the words. It's about what she feels while saying them. Because in that moment, she sees you differently, not as someone trying to impress her, but as a man who actually gets it. A man who listens with presence, who doesn't interrupt, who doesn't offer quick fixes or cheesy advice. He just holds space. That kind of man, he's unforgettable. He's the one who triggers feelings she doesn't fully understand. And that's what makes her come back over and over again. Because the man who makes her feel seen, without judgment, without pressure, is the one she'll never forget. At the end of the day, attraction isn't about tricks or games or pretending to be someone you're not. It's about understanding this simple truth. Women don't fall for perfection. They fall for presence. They crave a man who is calm under pressure, curious without being needy, strong without being arrogant, and who knows how to feel without losing control of himself. They crave emotional leadership, not emotional chaos. And that's what these 6 questions are all about. They aren't magic spells. They're mirrors. They reveal not just who she is, but who you are. Because when you're the kind of man who can hold eye contact without flinching, who can ask deep questions without fear, who can create emotional tension without breaking your frame, you don't just get the girl, you make her feel something so rare, so magnetic, that she doesn't even fully understand it herself. And that's why she remembers you. That's why she replays the moments in her mind when you're not around. That's why she craves your presence, even when she's telling herself she shouldn't. But here's the real secret most men miss. You don't ask these questions just to impress her. You ask them because you genuinely want to know. You aren't seeking approval. You're evaluating. Is she even worthy of entering your world? Because you are the prize. Not because you say it out loud, but because everything about you, your energy, your patience, your groundedness, shows it without a single word. So remember, you don't chase her emotions. You guide them. You don't react to her moods. You remain centered. You don't lose yourself trying to be liked. You stand firm in who you are. That's stoic masculinity. That's emotional mastery. That's the foundation of real, lasting attraction. And when you live from that place, you don't just make women crave you. You make the right woman respect you, trust you, and choose you without hesitation. If this resonated with you, if you're ready to lead with presence, not perform for approval, hit that like button and subscribe for more real, no BS insights on mastering connection through stoic masculinity. And in the comments, drop this: presence over performance. Let's see who's really about it, not just talking about it.